Well, hello, Pete.
Hello, good morning, Taylor, and welcome to another beautiful day at the Emotional Men podcast.
Yes,
Hello, Internet.
Woo! What's up, five of you?
Well, I don't know how many guests have we had. This at least three. We have three.
We've had three guests, but there's an assumption that the guests continue to listen after they've been
Oh,
on.
that's right. And Kat admitted that she never listened in the first place. So
Yeah, she's not listening to this. Not because she doesn't want to, she insists. It's because she doesn't have the time for it,
ah,
which
okay. But I can respect
that's
that.
fine.
She is a working person.
She's a pretty busy person. That is true. It looks like you are sitting in front of Santa Claus's landing spot.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking a new location in the house today. Um, there are ambient sounds of living all around me, but
Hmm.
when you do a podcast out of your home, you just choose a spot that you can.
Yeah, and just want you to know that you're fired. We
Oh,
will never
badoon.
do this again.
Yeah, I
Oh,
get it.
fireplace.
Fireplace fired.
Ah,
Yeah, I
see, I
thought
didn't.
actually that was a Santa Claus pun.
No, I'm very blonde. I don't think. I just
Yeah,
do.
well, well, we know that's not true. You've come up with enough quips offhandedly, really, really quick, which makes me
I
really
am.
upset.
I'm good at the quip. That's true. It's all my years
Yeah.
of improvisation through music, or just like thinking of like spending my spare time staring in a mirror, angrily looking at myself and just calling myself names that I can then use on other people.
Oh wow, this came from a darker place than I thought it did.
No, I don't know. No, I don't. No,
Okay,
never. I'm
so
I'm always nice to
you did the
myself.
quip nene thing.
The quip nene?
Oh no, well,
Uh, Another stunning start to the Emotional Men podcast. Woo!
that quip nene was a reference to a song that was called "Watch Me Whip Nene," but it was cool.
Oh, dude, how did I? I
Yeah, I thought
totally.
you were the pop culture reference guy. So
I'm embarrassed. I'm very embarrassed. Well, I mean, it's been two whole days since we released Mike's episode about suicide.
I've listened to it a couple of times, and if
Hmm.
nothing else, I said I found it valuable, and I listened to it honestly because I'm glad we got out of his way so he could tell his story. You got me out of his way early in the podcast. He told his story, and I was like, man, this is really valuable. I think somebody could find this very useful. It was a
What's
good one.
interesting to me about you saying that is I had a very clear moment when I was editing it where I was like, I'm so grateful that Pete is also a therapist because he knows when to stop talking.
Oh, well, it wasn't that I was talking. It was I asked a question. You were like, actually, before that, let's listen to his story, and I was like, oh, absolutely, yeah. We need to tell the whole story all at once.
Oh, no, I didn't have any problem with the question that you asked. I honestly, when he started talking, what really struck me is that, like there's huge swaths of us just letting him talk that I thought was very appropriate. It was his story, and it needed to be the focus. And
Yep.
so
Yeah,
that's
that's
what I
where I
mean.
like
Because
doing
like I think the average person would just be like, great, well, what up? And it just kind of kills what we're there to listen to, which is somebody who's been through a lot talking about what it was like to go through it.
it. Yep, that's
So,
exactly what it was for. I think you continue to choose topics that are increase. I think you're trying to prod me into an argument.
hmm.
This episode that we're going into is about the need to be right. And as I looked into that, it was like, this is me. I think Taylor's attacking me. This is a personal affront.
Oh
And
man.
when you talk about the need to be right, we have to touch on people's tendency to talk about religion and politics, the need to be right and that type of thing. And I'm like, man, Taylor is really he's trying to get me.
If that is really how you feel, I personally, deeply, truly want to apologize because that was not this topic specifically was Jeff Barlow asked us to talk about it like
Oh, okay. This
three
was
months ago.
3 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and then we moved it around because of other stuff that we had to do with guests and stuff. But no, this is a request from somebody.
we're happy
And
to do requests. This is wonderful. A request.
yeah, and now, now, Pete, are you feeling? Are you really feeling a little attacked with some of this stuff?
Oh no, absolutely not. Anyway, I don't care.
Okay. Okay, because I was like,
If you
oh,
wanted to attack me, it would be part of the fun of it. Like the next topic is going to be like, why do bald men suck?
yeah, why do women not like short people?
Yeah. I'm like, Taylor, I don't know where to go with this. Really? I thought you'd have a lot to say. Shut up.
Come on, Pete. I would do better than that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I
Let's
wouldn't
see.
want
If
to.
we were talking about bald people, I mean, first, I'd probably thank you for wearing a
Oh,
hat for fixing the light in the room so it's not like ruining the shot. Because that
there
much
we
light
go.
in a camera lens is really, it's hard to focus.
Wow. I don't know what you're
Uh,
talking about. It's the same color.
well, the nice thing too is like it's crazy to me that you're in front of your fireplace like that, standing up fully straight, and you're still not up to the top of it.
Oh man. I didn't know they made microphone stands that tall.
Yeah, well, I have to sit down in order to fit into frame, and I can see you like trying to stretch up as tall as you can to be a big boy.
Oh yeah.
The look.
I'm trying to be the bigger person, but I'll always lose with Taylor.
That's right, because you're very, very tiny. I feel like so today's episode really is about being right, and so do you want to start with the what's it called, the metric?
Yeah, yeah. So, as I'm looking up the definition of the need to be right is kind of a concept, it's a conceptual thing. So there's got to be language around this. So I looked around, what is the need to be right? And we have a word for it in English. And the problem is that it's been kind of hijacked by other things. And the word is called dogmatism, dogmatic. And
Hmm.
it basically means stating your. Oh, let's see if I can find it. The Merriam-Webster dictionary. The definition is dogmatist is
So anytime someone
what?
says the dictionary defines it as, I think of like a valedictorian speech.
Oh, oh. Okay. Well,
The dictionary defines dogmatism.
I'm trying to find common language to talk about this.
Oh, fine,
Characterized
be good
by
at your job.
or given to the expression of opinions very strongly or positively as if they were facts.
Hmm.
And that means religion and politics. Everyone has an opinion, but you are pushing it as if it is a fact. He voted for this thing, therefore, can't you see he's a bad person? I mean, it's obvious because he voted for this thing in 1985.
And I think it's worth pointing out that a dogmatic viewpoint doesn't just exist in politics and religion. You know, you'll have like people at work who are like, "This is the right way to do it," and we don't question why.
Oh yeah,
You have people
yeah.
who their view of themselves is very dogmatic. I am nothing if I am not ugh, burping. Excuse me.
Nothing if not
They'll say
burping.
they're nothing about burping. I am nothing if not this thing. And if I'm not this thing, then I am nothing. And that's a very dogmatic. This thing that I
Oh
feel is
yeah.
true has to be true, and that's kind of where it shows up at least in therapy. And you know, you can talk about politics and religion in therapy too, by all means. And dogmatic thinking is pervasive.
But we're basically talking about rigidity of thought. Like it has to be this way.
Yeah, and in fact, when Jeff reached out, he was thinking about his dad used to sell cars, but he sold like nice like muscle cars and like vintage. I think and Jeff is gonna correct me if I'm wrong. So sorry, Jeff, but I believe his dad sold like muscle cars and vintage cars and things like that. And so there's a guy that his dad was doing business with who was upset at his dad over like $1,000 on a car, and
Mhm.
he spent $15,000 on lawyers to prove himself right, and he just couldn't let it go. He had to be right, and so that's kind of like when do you let go of needing to be right?
Oh my
And I think
goodness.
a question of dogmatism is absolutely the right way to talk about this. This is, I feel it, it must be true,
I feel it.
and I
Yeah,
have to be
it
right.
must be true. I the metric that you mentioned earlier was there's something called the DOG, the dog, and it's a common assessment tool to assess for dogmatism. So Taylor and I took it, and a higher
Yes.
score, it was something like 0 to 100. The scale broke it down, so you get this generalized score. Um,
Yeah, I'm
my
looking at it right
score,
now.
okay. Well, I don't know if I have mine. I just have the score. I know what my number was. I got a 37 out of 100, and that was a moderately dogmatic. I think I was on the low end of moderately dogmatic, which I was honestly surprised to see that I was moderately dogmatic. I thought I would be higher. I honestly thought I would
Hmm.
because, well, we go into the becauses why, but what'd you find out, Taylor?
I got a 23.
Ah,
Um,
I knew it. I knew you'd get
yeah,
lower than me. Oh man, I knew it.
because I've got more room in my head to be open-minded, I guess.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes. It's a good comeback.
Yeah.
So according to what I took the test and then so I looked at mine and it says low dogmatism. So I'm low dogmatism, and that's characterized by a willingness to adapt beliefs based on new evidence, an openness to offering viewpoints, and an acknowledgement of uncertainty and complexity in understanding. Individuals with low dogmatism tend to question their beliefs and seek confirming as well as disconfirming information, demonstrating flexibility in their thinking. They exhibit a readiness to change their opinions when presented with compelling evidence, valuing critical thinking and rational discourse over adherence to strict doctrines, which allows for a more nuanced understanding of reality.
It's just hard. I think getting into the whys, it's if you are able to bend with new information, it means you can't live by hard and fast rules, which have been very comforting for me throughout my life. Like
Well, you're in the
the
military. How do you
the
have
military,
anything but
yeah.
hard and fast rules?
It's very nice to say the fork on the left. That's the way it is. And
Mhm.
the fork goes on the left, and I can live my life with the fork on the left. And it's comforting. I know what is right and wrong in that sense. And when somebody puts the fork on the right, I you don't judge them for it. Oh, they obviously just don't know, and you pick it up and put it on the left.
Mhm.
I
And
think that's where you come into the problems, but general having rules for life is so helpful.
yeah,
And
and I
and
want to maybe push against just a little bit here. My hands, I'm doing very, very Donald
really
Trump.
pushing.
We have the best rules. Okay, so when I approach life, I also have rules that I abide by, and I have preference, and I try to recognize the difference between this is a preference and this is a rule, and I can be extremely rigid in what I think is right and wrong. So I may
Okay.
have low dogmatism, but that doesn't necessarily mean low rigidity. Where if I am involved with somebody in any capacity and they do something I don't agree with, I stop. I cannot. I need to understand. That's been my downfall. So the low dogmatism means like, okay, so let's say we're at dinner and the fork is put on the right and is put on the left instead of the right, or no, it's put on the right instead of the left because the
Yeah.
fork does go on the left. Now, if I sit down and I have my fork where I want it, and then someone comes over and picks it up and moves it, I'm going to put it back. And I'm going to say, you need to explain to me why it's supposed to go over there. Because if you don't have a good reason for it, I don't care what you think is right. I need to
Yeah.
understand what you're doing. And this has caused a lot of problems in places that I've worked in the past where people will say, okay, well, now it's time for us to do this thing this way. And I'll say, that doesn't make any sense because it's ineffective and
Hmm.
creates busy work. And they'll say, but this is how we do it. And I'll say, I'm not going to do it until you tell me why, because it's a waste of my time. And then they get mad.
Yes. I find that easy. And honestly, everything is a social construct, and the fork on the left is only for the sake of standardization. Really,
Mm,
most people are right-handed. You'd probably use the fork with the right hand and the knife with the left, or vice versa. I don't remember. Anyway, the point is some things are just done that way because they need to be standard. Everyone needs to do it the same way. And why? Because somebody just chose one. And if
hmm
somebody says, explain to me why that is, there's no reason. There really is none. And I
Yeah.
found a better
And
way to do it. Well, too late. It's already standardized this way, and we're all doing it this way. Standard is sometimes needed, but man, it's annoying.
yes, sometimes. Yes. For example, like I'm looking at my computer setup. I've got an HDMI cable coming out of there. I've got three USB-Cs and I've got the power source, right? If the cables weren't standardized, all this equipment would be worthless because I'd have no way of connecting it. I think standardized does
Mm.
have a really good position in place, and a fork is not a standardized thing. Like it's not load bearing. It's not connecting.
Well, my
It's
forks are
simply
usually.
the load bearing. It's simply a way to use. It's a tool to be used in a certain way, and yeah. So I mean, we're talking about a very silly example, but
Yeah,
we can, you know.
it goes from everything from function to aesthetics. Why is it done this way?
Mhm.
And people who are curious, even if you are open minded. Well, actually, this is interesting. Um, Openness is not the same as not being dogmatic, which I
Mm.
thought was interesting. In one study, um, I'm going to just read the synopsis. The title was, believe it or not, exploring the relationship between dogmatism and openness between non-religious samples. Usually dogmatism is studied in terms of religion, but in this case,
Mm.
it was by non-religious. And they sectioned off atheists versus people who had no, didn't believe in anything particular, kind of agnostic. And they found that people who were atheist were just as dogmatic as those who were religious. And it was the first to establish differences between dogmatism and openness. Meaning, I think I didn't understand that, but as you're talking, I didn't understand it when I read it, but as you're talking, that totally makes sense. If somebody is open and you're saying, explain that to me, explain it to me. I'm open to hearing new information, but it doesn't mean that they will accept it.
It
And you
does,
can
yeah, it
be,
doesn't mean that it's right.
yeah, yeah, I will listen to you. I think you can be dogmatist and closed minded and say, I don't even want to hear it because I have my way of doing things. And you can be dogmatist and open minded and say, yeah, tell me everything you know about this. Still don't care. This way is still the right way, or
Yeah,
whatever.
I try and live my life by a thing. I think I've mentioned it here before. I don't think you can know you're right if you're not willing to be wrong. And I don't think that you can
Yeah.
pick and choose where you get to apply that. And so, like people, religion, for example, I've had people like, why are you religious? And well, because it works for me and because I have a belief structure that, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But they say, don't you ever question? I go, well, that's the basis of faith is doubt. I can't have faith if I'm not questioning. And if I don't question, then I pretend that I know, and I can't honestly say that I know. So the questioning is crucial. You look at
Yeah.
like to use a Judeo-Christian example, let's take a look at like at Jacob. He wants a blessing from God in the Old Testament, and so there's an angel that comes to him, and he literally physically fights him all night. And in the process of fighting, he hurts himself, like his leg gets pulled out of joint. And at the end of the fight, the angel goes, "Fine, what do you want?" And he gets a blessing, right? I think about that all the time because I don't think the blessing was the point. I think the wrestle was the point. This is something
Hmm.
that I think Judaism gets really right, that I really lament that Christianity doesn't incorporate. Judaism is more than willing to argue a point. They're more than willing to fight about something because I think they fully understand what I believe is a, a principle of godliness, which is that the fight is kind of the point, the struggle is the point, because that's where the value is. It's not the blessing.
And that as we all struggle for comfort, more and more comfort in our lives, maybe we lose the value of the struggle. And I mean, not just physical struggle, but I mean, moral struggle and intellectual struggle
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah, people who don't question things scare me, honestly.
if you become rigid and
Yeah.
this is just the way it is.
Yeah. And now I think that like when it comes to religion and politics is another great example. I have my strongly held political beliefs and I'm open to being wrong about them. I just don't think that I am. But I do have
Yeah.
to acknowledge truly that if we have a differing opinion, I mean, you and I have differing opinions about politics, and
Hmm.
it doesn't matter to our friendship. I love you to death. But I understand that ultimately we have basically the same facts. It's just that the facts mean something different to me, and the facts have different values. And so it's not that I'm operating with a different set of facts from you or whatever. It's just that this thing means more to me than this other thing, and to you, this thing means more to you than the other thing. At its core, politics should just be a question of how we spend money and how we collect money. That's the question of politics. How do we spend money? How do we get money? How do we protect that? What programs do we invest in? What laws do we enact and enforce? How do we protect people? How do we not protect people? That's what politics is. And it's become this thing where everyone is defined by being against the other side. Particularly, I think this is my personal opinion, caveat. I think Donald Trump is really good at stirring up people to hate other people. Specifically, he's really good at making people think that if you're not with him, then you must be against him. And there are people in Congress on both sides of the aisle who don't buy that, and he tends to try and make them the bad guy. And I hate it so much because it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
accomplish anything.
in American politics. In my classes, it was the premise was politicians are always trying to make themselves seem more centerline. You want to make the other person seem extreme, and you are moderate in most
Mhm.
ways. You want to seem yourself as center as you can because that's where all the votes are, and you put everyone else out to the outliers like they're extreme. And it seems to be inverted now with these culture wars. It's like I am more extreme. How extreme can I be? And they are wishy-washy weaklings like, and I am
Yeah.
way over here. I'm making things happen because I am extreme, and that's what people want. Not that I'm for
And
or against Donald Trump, but I do see a lot more personal attacks than there were. No,
Yeah.
politicians don't respect each other and say he's a great person, we just disagree. I haven't heard that in, a decade.
I will say this actually. So if you want to hear that, the governor of Utah is really good at putting out stuff where he has like a series of ads where he'll sit down with the governor of a Democratic state and he'll say we disagree on and insert the things they disagree on, and then he'll say but we agree on the following, and then they talk about what they agree on, and they're very friendly about it, and he says ultimately we have different ideas about how to run the government and the country, but like we're still colleagues and we still are Americans, and I've
Wow.
really appreciated that.
Okay, well now I know who to listen to get out of my own head. An interesting point is that open-mindedness and changing viewpoints, like I mentioned, being open and dogmatic are two different things.
Hmm.
Um, but one group of people, their conclusions at the end of their study basically said open-mindedness and changing viewpoints allow for a more nuanced perception of reality.
Hmm.
Which means, does that mean then that you are living on? Are you being tossed around by ocean waves and you're going anywhere that they send you, or is your viewpoint changing based on concrete evidence that you now believe one thing that you didn't believe yesterday? And is that
Hmm.
legitimate? Um, is there value in changing all your viewpoints all the time, having all of your viewpoints now um, vulnerable to change? Where is a
No.
bedrock where's your bedrock that you don't even approach? And should we approach those bedrocks?
Well, those are different questions, I think, and they're interesting questions. I think that everybody needs a guiding standard set of principles by which they decide, because you can't. There's let's talk hermeneutics and phenomenology for a sec. Let's get philosophical about this. There's a philosopher named Heidegger who is has some problematic views in general, cough, cough, Nazism, whatever. We'll set that aside now. Let's look at what he
Okay.
said. He says that, among other things, we interact with the world in two ways. There's things that are ready at hand and things that are present at hand, right? So, right now, what is ready at hand? It's stuff that I'm not thinking about that I'm interacting with. This microphone in front of me, it I'm not thinking about it. I'm just using it. It's ready. It's going. It's doing its thing. These headphones, the hat, the clothes, everything I'm wearing, I'm not aware of it. It just I'm interacting with it, right? But I can make it present at hand, which is to say I can go, oh, there's a mic, and I can take it, and you can hear like I'm touching it, and I can tap it, and I can pick it up, and I can do things with it
Yeah.
when it becomes present to me. So the question of how we interact with the world is one of what is ready and what is present. And Heidegger would say that if everything in your world is present at hand, like you're aware of it and you're interacting with it consciously, you cease to be able to function. Without some level of
Oh
just ready
man.
at hand, you can't, like if I'm driving my car the whole time, like I'm grabbing a steering wheel, I'm controlling the car with the pedals, I can change direction. I'm not going to be paying attention to the road. I'm going to get a car accident and kill somebody. You cannot function if everything is constantly being evaluated. I mean, like there's a word for that in the mental health world, and I believe it's, oh yeah, anxiety. It can be crippling.
Yeah, when we talk about mindfulness, being mindful is this practice for a few moments when you try to be mindful of a thing as intensely as you can. But I never realized Heidegger taught that, but I've often thought that if you're mindful in your day-to-day life completely, you would go insane. There's too many sensory inputs for you to
Hmm.
take in all the time, the colors, the smells, the sounds, the feeling of your clothing on your skin. If you're aware of that all the time, you would have this omnipotent mental breakdown.
Yeah, you just cease to function. Like
Yeah.
how can you, if you're constantly aware of everything? That is anxiety. That is what anxiety is, right? So this idea of like we have these guiding principles and a bedrock. How close do we get to examining them? I say you need to know where they all are and why. For myself, especially and explicitly, I have to know what my foundation is and I have to know why it's there. But once I know why it's there, I don't have to check it every time I stand on it. It's there, it's fine. I trust the foundation. I can build
Ah,
on that
yeah.
foundation. And if I need to, like if the foundation shifts, I can go down and look at the bedrock and say, "Oh, there was actually a problem with the bedrock. Let me fix that problem." But I don't need to always constantly be judging it and reevaluating it.
Okay, so if then we say theft is bad, I've never ever questioned why theft was bad. Why wouldn't I steal something from a grocery store that I want and just walk out
Hmm.
of it? walk out of the store with it. Um, you're suggesting that we do not question the belief, but we accept it, but find a reason for it. So if somebody asks us, well, dude, just grab it. Why don't you just take that? I have to have a reason for why I believe theft is bad.
Yeah. So in that particular situation, I think that theft can be bad. And maybe this is a major difference between you and me is like I can absolutely think of times like, yeah, you should probably steal that.
Hmm.
If I have somebody in my life and I can't get the money and they've got a starving child at home, please
Oh, the
steal it.
Valjean thing. Yeah, steal some
Yeah,
bread.
kind of. Yeah. Like if you're going to die, that changes the math. The calculations are
Yeah,
just
well,
different.
yeah, but that's because you have a reason. Like for me, I would say I don't steal. Well, uh,
But see, this is the thing,
reasons.
right? If stealing is the thing and stealing is the bedrock and we don't question stealing and you're in a position where you have to steal, you keep yourself from surviving because you have to do the right thing.
Right. But stealing is not a value. It's not like be honest. Honesty is a value. Like
And that's an important thing because I think that a lot
stealing's
of
not a
people will
value.
take dogmatic beliefs and make them values, and they're not the same.
Oh, yeah. You say I don't vote for bad people. That's what bad people do. Like, oh, really? Really?
Define bad.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
kind of bad?
Define bad and in what circumstances? Because voting is not a value system. So if
Correct. Oh, preach.
voting is not a value system, so I would say stealing is because I would say it's a bad idea because our economy is based on monetary transactions, and I don't steal because I don't want people to steal from me, and I need to give that guy money so that our economy can function because downstream, I'm going to receive money when I sell something, and that's just how our economy functions. Now,
Hmm.
if I am um, like in the military, we have search, evade, rescue, and escape SEER is instructors, and part of their training is to do urban survival, and they get dropped off for like 3 days in a city, and this is legitimate. They have to survive for 3 days, given nothing. They're like wet and cold and whatever. And one of these SEER instructors in his training was telling me like he would go and steal clothing off uh, steal clothing from a line, and then he slept on some guy's dog bed that he had out on his back porch, and just stuff to survive. And that has
Hmm.
nothing to do with the economy. And his values could bend because he's like, actually, this is now part of my job. I'm going to be saving people's lives and teaching them how to do this from my experiences. So he could technically steal. He could steal things and not violate his values. Where he's like, could I be dishonest for
Yeah.
this,
I'd
whatever?
even take it a step further, and I would say that if you were to go to the person who owned the dog mat and say to them, "Hey, I'm trying to survive. Will you please let me sleep on this dog mat?" They'd be like, "Yeah." Like as long as they don't feel like they're in danger from you, they're not going to care. They want you to survive too. And I think that the
Yeah.
same thing is like, I'm going to freeze to death if I don't steal these clothes. I think the average person, and this is, I believe people are generally good. The average person would say, then please take the clothing. I'd love my clothes back if you can, but please don't
Yeah.
die. If I
Yeah.
can help you not die, that'd be great.
So I think what you're talking about is you um, find reasons for your value system, why you need to be right based on your values, and then come up with a
Mhm.
reason for the value. So if I believe that being honest is the best way to function, I think people should be honest and upfront.
Mhm.
Wait, maybe not upfront. That's a bit too much. I'd say just
See, I
honest.
am actually probably more in that camp than you are.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I think honest. I think you should. I think people mask their opinions for the sake of politeness,
Mhm.
and
Which is a shame, I think.
not I. I prefer it sometimes. But anyway, honest. If I ask somebody, "What do you think of this?" I expect honesty. But but if someone finds it and they read it, what I wrote, I don't want them to come to me and just spew everything. It's like, here, I found this. It's nice, and hand it to me. Well, what did you think of it?
Mhm.
Well, and then they can give me their opinion. Um,
Yeah, I think there's a line for sure. It's interesting you're talking about the stealing thing. Like, that's not why I think stealing is wrong. And this is a great example of like, which of us is right? Yes, we're both right. I don't think that stealing is right because it hurts people, right? I mean, like, you can talk about stealing from corporations versus stealing from smaller like a mom and pop store, and we can talk about the different levels of this. But ultimately, by stealing something, I'm doing somebody harm because I'm taking something that's not mine and they have to pay the price. That's just not fair. We do live in a capitalist society, but
Right, but you're talking about Joe Bob at the general store eating the cost of that thing that you stole, and now
mhm.
he doesn't have money for Christmas. When this wasn't, it's actually, now that I'm thinking about where I learned this, it may fall more into the personal camp. My dad was raised by his grandfather Monroe Kingsley.
Mm.
And my great grandfather was a cowboy. Like at one point, a horse stomped on his toe. It got infected,
Oh.
so my great grandpa cut it off with a pocket knife.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
that kind of guy. And my dad, growing up with
We
his
used to
grandpa,
be a country.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like my dad has this memory of Grandpa Monroe putting his shoulder underneath the butt of a horse and pushing him up into a horse trailer, like that
Mm.
kind. Like every dad is Superman. So my dad grew up in New Mexico, cowboy country and stuff. But we went down to visit at one point as a kid, and my dad had, back when they used checks, you have to go somewhere, and it was out of state because my dad was in the military. So he pulls out his checkbook, and they say, "Oh, it's an out of state check." But the teller sees my dad's name on the check, and it says Kingsley, and he says, "Kingsley?" He goes, "Yeah. Are you Monroe's boy?" And my dad said, "Yeah, he raised me. That's my grandfather." And the teller takes my dad's check and says, son of Monroe is good enough for me."
Mm.
And my dad was just blown away that my grandfather, my great grandpa, his grandpa, had a reputation in the town that was like that.
Mm.
That was, my grandson can now cash out of state checks with trust because of the way I lived my life. What a great compliment to my great grandpa Monroe.
Yeah.
But when I learn about honesty, why? Why honesty? Why does that matter? It could be not because I will get something, because at one point somebody will see my name or my son's name and say, "Oh, Kingsley, there, you get something."
Yeah.
Then why? Is it because I want special favors from people who trust me? No, I think a lot of times people just operate on trust. There's a lot of trust going around, and
Mhm.
when you don't have it, it's a dearth of resource. You need trust. And that's more of a
Absolutely.
personal, that's a more humanist approach than economics. You need
Hmm.
you need
Yeah,
trust.
you need trust. Absolutely. I was talking to somebody yesterday about somebody who was using their family name to get what they want. And I was like, this is the thing that kills me about some of these people is like, you know, their name gives them access to certain kinds of power and they take that and they run with it. And I'm like, I willed my business into existence in two different states. And like my name means something because I came to Texas, nobody knew who I am. People still mostly don't know who I am, but the ones who do, they now have an association with my name. It's because I gave it to them, right?
Like your name
And
belongs to you. No one
yeah,
else.
this is my name. It's like the end of the Crucible
Oh
when John
yeah,
Proctor, that
this is
movie
my
changed
name.
my life. This is
Yep,
my name. I don't take it from me, right?
it's the only one you have in
Um,
your life.
yeah, exactly. So when people try and use their name that they haven't earned to try and do stuff, it kills me. As opposed to your dad, who at that store, he didn't walk in like, I'm a Kingsley.
Don't you know Monroe
Why are you,
Kingsley? Yeah.
how dare you question my check? I mean, that's he was grateful for it. He took it, and I'm sure he's like, I better live up to this. And that counts for a lot.
Okay, so if I think it does too. I've that's one of those life stories that I have of my family.
Yeah.
But let's say instead of a value like honesty, you're talking about a behavior, which is where dogmatic people run into trouble, I think, is if you say there's this behavior and it's wrong because we have this.
Hmm.
Why is it that people, and we all know these kind of people. I mean, I know several people off the top of my head who are just browbeating you into silence, and you get into a conversation, and they're just like, "Oh no, let me tell you what," and you're like, "Okay," it's like you just shut down. You don't agree with them. You're not complicit in what they're saying, but you're just, oh my
There's
gosh,
no point.
there's no point. They're so right, and yet they seem powerful. They seem like they own the conversation. They own the room. Everyone else just kind of shuts down, and they can just talk you into and are you willing to, I mean, that comes into your own personal fortitude. How willing are you to give into what they're saying just to get out of the
Yeah.
pressure.
And is that okay that you did? You talked about your high school girlfriend who sat you down and had a come to Jesus moment. You're like, I'm pretty sure I know who that guy is already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, this highlights something that I feel very strongly, which is one of my bedrock things, which is being passionate about something and having strong feelings does not mean you're right about it. And if your passion for something overrides your capacity to be wrong about it, then you're already wrong. You cannot
Mm.
go through life assuming that just because you have strong feelings, you are correct. And this is true of anything. And that's not to say that if you have strong feelings about something, that you're inherently wrong. No. But it is to say, if you're not willing to question that and push against it, then you've created yourself a new religion. And that idea is the leader of that church. That's a dangerous place to
Oh
be.
man, that is a great way to say that. As you're talking about the bedrock things that you don't question, I think about what are my strongest feelings? My strongest feelings that I assume are right. And it would be like the love for my wife. It'd be like, I love my wife. That is a strong feeling. And her being sad makes me sad. Her being happy makes me happy.
Hmm.
Um, and then I realized that if I don't worry about that, if I don't question um, the love in our relationship, then it will falter. You have to worry about it.
Hmm.
You have to
And
question
you
it.
saying that brings up a very, I think, crucial thing here. There's a difference between questioning something and doubting something. Like, I
Oh,
question my
yeah.
relationship with my wife all the time, but I
Yeah.
don't question it like I don't think it's good. It's like, where can I do better? How can I do better? I'm asking questions of the relationship to diagnose its strength.
Yeah.
But I'm not questioning it in the sense of like I don't think she really loves me. And I'm not going to tell myself too like I don't love her because I'm asking these questions. Incorrect. I love my wife to death. I would murder a person with my bare hands for my wife if I needed to.
Man,
I'm
double
sure
cross cat.
yes, I it'll get ugly.
If she doesn't
I
get to
think
me first.
but I think the thing too, like you would do the same for your wife, right? So it's not a question, do I doubt the relationship? The question is, where are the boundaries of this and how do I interact with it? And there's so much value in being able to question it without doubting it. And that's an important part of dogmatism. If I question it, that must mean that I'm doubting it. And I can't do
Ooh,
that because
yeah.
if I give up my knowledge that I'm right, then the entire system crumbles. To which I say, then maybe your system's garbage. Maybe you should question it. And if you can't withstand any questions, then what are you doing?
Mhm. And if you have a strong value system, that means that you have already gone through those questions and you have answers for them and you don't doubt them, but you can question all you want. And that's what I find out. Like the more you question something that's strong, the more you believe in it. But
Hmm.
as you continue to question it until you get to you might get to a safe point like in your relationship and be like, "Oh, we're married, we're solid, whatever. I don't ever have to worry about that." And you never approach the worry of your relationship as a metaphor.
Hmm.
You never approach it, then it might grow weaker and or at least not as strong as if you continue to worry about it. Like I found out that my wife loves to play cribbage and it was like a childhood game of when she was a kid.
Hmm.
And we wouldn't have found that if I hadn't asked her about her childhood, asked her about games, asked her about her parents and like what her parents do and stuff like that. Um,
This is maybe a very dogmatic thing I'm about
asking
to say, but
makes
I
things
truly
stronger.
believe, yeah, it does. And you said things might get weaker if you don't question them. Here's my dogmatic. It will get weaker. If you don't question these things, they start to fade. Like, how do I get strong at rock climbing, for example? I do it by climbing a rock, and I do it consistently over and over. And the more I do it, the more I blow my arms out, the more I'm capable of doing it in the future. And it's that constant questioning. It's not that I doubt my capacity to climb up a wall. It's that I need to constantly be engaging with it, or I'm going to lose it. I mean, people talk about falling out of love with their partner, and I hear that and I go, okay, you stopped caring about it, you stopped questioning it, and you stopped taking care of it. That's what happened. And maybe people do change, right? Like I understand there's nuance to this. Clearly, there's nuance to this. But for the most part, when someone says they fell out of love with their partner, my very first thought is, when did you stop caring?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Especially if they had a passionate relationship to start with, they loved things about it, and then all of a sudden those things didn't matter. Like, wait, what? What? How did? That's kind of weird.
Yeah,
Uh, wh-
absolutely.
when it comes to being right, talking about gender roles, I had a supervisor warn me once as I was talking about talking about diagnosing, um, or it wasn't diagnosing. It was a woman complaining about her husband. And by the way, there's I have not found a big gender difference in dogmatism between male and female. I just want to get that out of
Hmm.
there. But she says my husband is such a narcissist, and we know that the TikTok docs they throw around
Hmm.
narcissist quite a bit. My supervisor warned me borderline is the diagnosis for women we don't like, and narcissist is a diagnosis for men we don't like. There is
Yep.
no diagnosis for a hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Is what she
there it
said.
kind of is now. It's called antisocial personality disorder, right? But you're not wrong. Like women are borderline, men are narcissists. And
And that could just
there's
be a factor of dogmatism. We also say don't shit on yourself. That's rigid thinking. Um,
Mhm.
why can't you? You know, I should have gone to that Christmas party. Well, why? You didn't want to. You don't like big crowds of people. Why are you telling
Mhm.
yourself that you should? Well, that's what good people do. Like, whoa, that's where's that come from? That
Yeah,
is
and
a
then you get in this thing of like, well, now you must be a bad person because you're
yeah,
not willing to
yeah.
question this.
So now you're a bad person. Well, no, you just told me you were a bad person. If you live by dogmas, um, with that, I should say, if you live by dogmas that are unfounded that you haven't explored,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's
so
risky.
there's a counter side, a counterpoint to all of this, which is people with deeply held beliefs. We're not saying that's a bad thing. Having having a deeply held belief that you live your life by. My parents are extremely religious, and I'm not talking like weird Jesus freak religious. I just mean they live their religion very intentionally, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that's true of like I have some really great Hindu clients I work with who are very religious. I've got some very fantastic atheist clients who are very religious in that they live their lives according to that belief system and they live it
Hmm.
very well. And they're lovely, lovely people. And you can say Judaism, Hinduism, Muslim. I mean, name the religion. There are people who are very strong in their faith that are not overly dogmatic. And by that, I mean they're not of the belief that they have to do this way because if you don't, then you're a bad, bad person. And it's an important consideration. If you start to get too much down that road, it's dangerous, I think.
In general, I think there's these two different types of um, dogmatism. One is I need to be right. I need to do it the right way, or else I'm a bad person. And
Hmm.
then we see dogmatism, where it's those browbeating, loud people who are like, "You need to do what's right." This came out a lot. I was in Idaho at the time of COVID, and I would be wearing a mask in the grocery store, and I'd have people approach me saying, "You know, those masks are laced with some chemical," and they're like, "You're breathing that in," and walk off. And I'm like, what the heck?" Like, um, there's a lot of like, am I right? And I'm going to force it on you, or not force it. I'm going to tell you this is wrong,
Hmm.
or like they force it on themselves and say, I did this thing that I know is wrong, therefore I am wrong.
Yeah. This is a personal story, and I'm not going to mention any names, but this is somebody that Pete knows. That I've talked to you about this. This is a guy that I was the best man at his wedding, like one of my closest friends. He moved to a more secluded part of the country and kind of, I think, went a little crazy, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And during COVID, something in him broke, and I can't say too much. I don't want to give away who this is in any way, shape, or form. Um, he and I had a pretty big fight, and he believed that trans people, specifically and explicitly, transgenderism is the greatest threat to America that exists, which is insane to me. Like, I don't understand how you reach that conclusion, but he had. Okay. I disagreed with him. I wasn't afraid to disagree with him, and it caused problems. We didn't talk for a year, and then he called me up, and we had a huge conversation that basically ended with him telling me that I was going to go to hell and that I had become corrupted by my career. And I go, at what point do you sacrifice friendships? The best man at your wedding where you're not willing to talk to him because he doesn't think that transgenderism is going to kill America. At what point do you let go of the need I have to be right about this, and people who disagree with me are not only
Yeah.
bad but dangerous to be around. What a loss. It's
I think,
it's something that I think about probably once a month. His name pops into my head, and I get angry and sad at the same time. What a loss to be
yeah,
that rigid and dogmatic.
I'm so sorry. Losing, yeah, it hurts people. It really
Yeah,
does. Um,
yeah,
but way back in when they started studying this stuff in 1977, they found a correlation between dogmatism and hostility. Men and women were more likely to be much more hostile the more dogmatic they were. Not just prejudiced and bigoted, but like actually hostile.
yeah. Like get in your face hostile, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, that's kind of a duh thing. You'd imagine somebody who's that rigid and hateful, but like to have it put down on paper of like, hey, we studied 200 people and we found this really strong correlation, which is interesting. It's not by gender. It's just as a human,
Yeah,
the more
yeah. And
closed.
this is something that goes anything can become dangerously dogmatic. I mean, you can talk to somebody who is a hardcore born again evangelical Christian, which I run into a lot of down here in Texas. I'm sure you do in Tennessee.
Yeah.
People who are like I've had people tell me that I'm going to hell because I'm the wrong kind of religion my whole life. I'm like that. Okay, cool. Let me join your religion then when you put it so kindly. But you have the exact opposite end of the spectrum where the same thing happens. Like you believe in religion, you believe what kind of moron? I had someone I was giving therapy to. They hadn't paid for therapy in months because they couldn't afford it, and I was like, the right thing to do is to help them. They found out what religion I was. They started crying, walked out, and never came back because they said, and I quote, "I can't do therapy with somebody who's stupid enough to believe that."
Wow.
Cool. Like, is this? Do you feel better now? Like, have you? There.
Wow.
What are you doing?
That's nuts. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Whatever. That one I truly do not think about that often. I when I do think about it, it's a sense of like I can't imagine walking away from a provider who has helped me. And this isn't me patting myself on the back. They told me that it was helpful, and I'm glad that it was genuinely. And also being like, but because you don't believe as intensely what I do and the way that I do, you're a
Hmm.
bigot.
Yeah.
You are the one making the bigoted decision right now, not me.
Interestingly enough, if you guys know the movie Miracle on 34th Street, it's the
Hmm.
first and only movie the first movie about mental health inpatient work, where a guy who claims to be Santa
Hmm.
Claus gets put into a psych ward. And one of the psychologists in that movie, um, they're talking about how crazy this guy is for thinking he's super Santa Claus. How crazy is this guy? He can't be Santa Claus. And one psychologist at one point in the movie says, "Why? Why is that crazy? I work with a guy who thinks that he is Christopher Columbus, and he lives a normal life. He owns that shop down at the end of the corner, and he thinks he's Christopher Columbus. It doesn't mean anything." And but if we thought that if you are hallucinating, then you are a bad person and you're dangerous, and that is just the way it is, without any questioning or any curiosity, we'd be robbing someone of their entire lives. That's just instead of approaching you and be like, "Wow, why do you believe that?" It's just you're crazy. That's it. You're a bad person. I have you in that box.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you can look at research that backs this up, but like generally speaking, if you have somebody who's having some kind of mental health issue, the best and quickest and easiest way to really help them is to meet them exactly where they are. So if someone comes to my office and says, "I'm Christopher Columbus," my first question isn't, "Why are you crazy?" My first question is like, "What was it like when you got to the Americas?"
yes, yeah, exactly. What is that like for you? Is it exciting? Is it like, are you proud of yourself for what you've done? Like, what is it like? And
Hmm.
yeah, and then they start to explore that with you because they no one else to explore it with.
Yeah, and then eventually my experience has been, no, I'm not, this isn't a research statement, but my anecdotal experience has been that if I can enter into a person's existence where they are, I'm much more likely to connect them to a bigger experience of reality. And in doing so, pull them away from the harmful aspects of what they're thinking and ground them in helpful
Hmm.
aspects of the
I
world around them.
I had a guy who was he was addicted to meth and he was having paranoia, it's like strong paranoia, incredible paranoia, schizophrenia. And he'd tell me as we're walking along the street, I think I've shared this before, but the story of like government agents everywhere. A couple
Mm.
older folks walking into their home, the lady shoots a glance at us before walking into the house, and he's like, see right there. They're my old friends. I call them my old friends. And there's always two cars whenever one passes. And they're like, a car passed, and then like 30 seconds later another car passed. He was like, yep, see, there are always two cars. They're out looking for me. I don't know what they want, but they're looking for me. And I would just listen and be like, man, that must be tiresome, always being watched. And he's like, it doesn't matter to me. And he's like, they watch you too. And I was like, well, I hope they like what they see, whatever. And we had
Hmm.
this banter back and forth to where it became a non-issue. Like he gets watched and I get watched, and we talk about like I never admitted to being watched. I always said, "Well, I didn't notice anybody. I don't see anything, but you do, so I guess it hurts you more than me." And he started to connect with me and my experience, and I was connecting with him and his experience
Hmm.
until there was this golden point where he showed some doubt as to whether that person was a government agent. He's like, "Well, I don't know if that one is." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." He was so sure that everybody was until their doubt, because
Hmm.
I had my experience, he had his experience, and he didn't have anyone to tie into until he came to talk with me. That he had, everyone thought he was crazy when he talked to him.
Yeah,
So I
and this
think,
is like we talked about this with the suicide thing, like the power of community and grounding people in healthy mental approaches to life. By connecting with people, you're changed by the connection, and you can connect to things you otherwise wouldn't have been able to. It's very grounding.
yes, I think then it's important to identify what is an opinion and what is a value, and not only values,
Hmm.
but what are your life values? What are your bedrock values? And if you can get to your bedrock values and work your way up, then you realize some values, maybe um, like honesty, is like, well, it depends. I will be honest up to this point, and why will I lie in a certain scenario? Because my other value that is deeper than that is more important, or something like that. You work your way up until you get to opinions, and opinions are not values. And then you don't become dogmatic because your opinions change, but your values stay the same. I believe
Yes.
in taking care of people. I think especially people who are vulnerable. Um, I'm worried. Um, I'm worried about shoot. I'm worried about veterans who think that they're too tough to need help, or that there is some stigma to mental health. Um,
Hmm.
I worry about vets, especially those in the service, those still in the
Yeah, same
service.
with cops and firefighters and
Yeah,
EMT
and
workers.
because not like when you retire and you get the VA system and you go to medical appointments in the service, you're still working, you have to be functional. And so there's a lot of not abuse, but it gets to that point almost. Some would argue with me saying there is abuse, but I worry about vets. I worry about people. My opinion is we need to uh, put more resources into the actual work to be done. We need more people on the flight line than uh, than we can, because we're canceling Christmas and pulling people off leave, and a lot of people aren't staying because the leadership is crummy. We need to fix the work, not get more therapists to fix the downstream effect. That's my
Hmm.
opinion. We need to fix the work that's actually going on with leadership and the workload. Now, if someone gave me statistics to say that leadership is now being trained better, or our retention standards are low, we need to work on retention, then I'd be like, oh, well, maybe we don't need to shovel more people into the pipeline. We need to work on retention. My opinion has changed, but
Hmm.
my value of taking care of vets, taking care of people, has not changed. And so I think
Yeah.
that the danger of dogmatism is that your opinions hold as much sway as like your bedrock life values.
Yeah, it's like everything gets crushed. And so instead of having a 3D structure, you have like a 2D structure or even a 1D structure. It's,
Oh yeah,
going back to
one
this
one
question
way.
of politics, right? I know people who are single issue voters, which I don't understand because like if let's say my single issue is making sure that everyone has a puppy, right? And then you got this guy's like, I'll give everyone a puppy, And then 5 years later, I will take out the oldest child in your house and kill them in your backyard. And you're like, well, but I do get a puppy.
Oh my gosh. It's
There's a
so,
problem with
yeah,
that.
exactly. And it's nuanced. It is hard. We're talking about this omnipotent view of the world going on all at once, all being present. That means it's dynamic, kind of like a kaleidoscope of changing angles and colors. And when you look at a person, whether it's a political candidate or yourself as a person, those things are dynamic. You want to freeze that structure into those shapes and colors and say, that's the way he was in 1987, so I'm not going to vote for him. Well, dude, I'm
Hmm.
really sorry, but that kaleidoscope is rotated and you are now different angles and shapes and colors, and it's difficult. It's hard. So what am I now, and what do I believe, and what does he believe now? How has this all changed?
Hmm.
How's the world changed? And it's work. It really is effort. It's
Yes,
effort to find out
absolutely.
who you are, what you believe, what other people are, and what they believe. Can you say that they are not a bad person? It's so much easier just to say he's scum. I wish he would die. Like he's all bad, completely bad, which some people do, and it's unfortunate to say just to completely, you know, paint them in black paint completely because it
Yeah.
takes the
You know,
nuance out of everything.
yes, there are things that I voted for when I first started. When I got to voting age, there's people I voted for and things I voted for that I would not vote for now because I've changed. Does that mean I was bad and wrong when I did it before? No, it means my values were different and they have shifted, and that's okay. I think that all of this is kind of circling a couple ideas. One is that being right is not the same as being powerful, and that's an important thing to know because if you equate the two, then if as you don't have to question whether you're right, you just get to have power for no reason. You get to assume it and take it and wield it. But that's not how it works. Being right is not being powerful. Being educated and informed, that's power. Working within that to defend values that you have, that's sure that's power.
Yes.
But if I'm not willing to interact with the truth or the lack of truth in my rightness, then I don't have to be accountable for the power because it's owed to me. That is very dangerous, extremely
Oh
dangerous.
man,
I mean, that's
it's
the
owed
core of
to me.
fascism, right?
Yeah. No questions, only obedience.
I could never be in the military for specifically that reason because I understand that things need to go a certain way, but again, like I need to know why. And if you can't tell me why, if you're
Well,
just like this is how it is, I can't trust you. This is like as a person, I can't do it. Not that people who are in the military can't or that
no,
they're
it's
bad. I just
because
for
that
me.
it's always the mission. You have to persecute the mission, is what they say. So if they say something like, "Hey, this hydraulic stand needs to rest on the crossbeam all the way because we need to get this aircraft we need to get this aircraft out, and you didn't do that right." We're focused on getting the aircraft out, and so they're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, got it. Hydraulic jacks go down on the crossbar," and they'll move on. And there's a lot of like, well, why? And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to tell you this. We need to get the aircraft out now. And
Mhm.
so there's a lot of the efficiency comes with standardization. And um,
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, I'm defending the military
No,
here.
no, please defend it. I
Why?
mean, this like,
Why
again,
people?
like this
Yeah,
is the realization that I could not be in the military. Not that being in the military is bad or wrong. I would not do well for this
okay.
very reason.
Well,
This is one of
I've met
my
people
failings.
exactly like that, and they do become bitter, not because they're not open minded, but just that they need to know. They need to know. Well, why?
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't work well for me. And again, nothing wrong with that. Um, what about people who very strongly believe they're right and live their life that way? Are we saying there's something wrong with having strongly held beliefs?
I kind of envy people who have strong beliefs that have spent their lives examining them. I don't I don't envy people who have that way of doing it just because that's their way. That's
Hmm.
like OCPD. That's just like all the Skittles have to be separated into their separate colors in my bowl. That's just the way it is. Well, maybe, but is that based on a value or is that just the way it is? So I
Hmm.
do envy the people who say that who can sit me down. I mean, having conversations with somebody who is wise in their own way, and whether it is something I agree with or not. Oh, here's a good example. So there's As I was in another country, I walked in and this guy had this huge flag of his own country in his living room, which I didn't see very often because they're this country they weren't blatantly patriotic. And he sat down and talking about the growth of his country and how excited he was that these politics were going this way to grow the country and treaties were being signed. And it was like refreshing. It was so attractive to see this guy be patriotic for his country, and I didn't care. Like, it's his country. It was his country. I don't care. But patriotism was the value. Like, he was patriotic for his country, and it was just wonderful to see. It was wonderful.
Hmm.
And why he loves his country, I could probably sit down and name reasons why he should hate his country, why it sucks, why it's low, and like whatever. Um, but he has examined his country and things that he's excited about and hopeful for and believes that it can be better was so great. It was wonderful.
Mm.
So the fact that he held on to that belief, even though I could dispute it, I I respected that. I loved that. In fact, I could sit with him for another hour and listen to how much he loves his country. And
Hmm.
I don't know why, because it wasn't my country. It was because of his value. It was his personal values of patriotism. So if somebody
Totally.
holds on to something that necessarily I don't agree with, that doesn't apply to me, whatever, I can respect someone who holds to their values that they've examined. And it's not
Yeah.
just because that's the way it is, because I live in this country, so that's the way it is. No, this guy looked at his values and he examined
Hmm.
why he believed it, and he looked at reasons to believe it. And if someone asked him, he could give reasons. It wasn't just like because I was born here. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
It was.
You're in the military, you can probably name more stuff wrong with this country than anybody because you've seen it in action. Everybody I know who's worked in intelligence hates the government and loves America. And it seems to be
Oh
true
yeah,
without
perfect way.
exception, right?
Yeah.
And I have an American flag in front of my house right next to a pride flag, and neither of those two is going away because I'm an American, and as an American, I'm very proud of that, and I'm also happily in support of LGBTQ plus folks and their rights. One doesn't take away from the other, and I hate when people are like, "Oh, true patriots this, true patriots that." Shut up.
Yeah,
I'm
true
an
patriots.
American. I'm a patriot. I love America. It has a lot of problems, but you can't take this away from me, and I'll defend that. I'll defend that. So yeah, I fully understand that. I one of my other things, right, is like if you can't be willing to be wrong, then you can't be right. I also feel like if you can't understand why somebody would disagree with you, you have no chance of ever convincing them anything else. If I'm going to be trying like in a purely debate setting or a back and forth where we're trying, the point isn't to make the other person feel stupid. The point is to try and get to a new place. If I don't understand why they wouldn't agree with me, I'll never be able to help them understand why they should agree with me. So I try and approach everything like I'm wrong about something or I'm missing something. Help me understand it. That doesn't mean that they always change my view. It doesn't mean that I always abandon
Hmm.
my point of view. It
But
just means
if
I'm
if
open
you
to it.
yeah, and if you approach somebody who's open and you're just like, well, that pride flag in my yard, well, why should I take that down? And then they'll start to give you opinions, and it's not
Hmm.
new information; it's just their opinions, and that is dogma. The dogmatic viewpoint is I'm going to give you my opinion. See,
Yeah.
here it is.
Yeah.
Don't you see my opinion? It's right here in front of you. So take your flag down. You're like, but that's nothing new. That's that's just your
Yeah.
side of the opinion.
And it's not a value. It's not a question
It's
about
not a
value.
value. That's right. And you could say like, actually, when you raise up a Nazi flag in your yard, that actually hurts Jewish people. That is actually really, really aggressive, and that's a value. Like
Yeah, the
it's
value is that Nazism is correct. And like I understand like if I'm in certain parts of the world and have an American flag, people can take offense and like that's a dangerous thing. That I feel like an attack. Okay, I'm aware of that and I respect that.
yeah. Given the situation, that is true. Yeah, got it. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to fly a Nazi flag in Israel.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's a terrible
exactly.
idea.
Well, that reflects a value. I mean, and so if you were unaware of that value and you're like, I'm being true to my beliefs, and someone else would be like, actually, that's what this means in this place. That's a different value. You'd be like, oh gosh, we're
Yeah.
connecting on values, not like, well, that's wrong. You're just wrong.
Hmm.
Well, that's an opinion. This
Yeah.
is really interesting. I didn't think that this conversation would go this way, but the need to be right is we're talking about opinions versus values, and dogmatism is based on opinions being
Hmm.
toted as facts.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a very interesting conversation. There's one final question that we have in our runner sheet that I would love to hear your answer to.
Okay, here we go.
If if people always need to be right, what is the danger of being wrong? And this is from a dogmatic point of view. Like, what is the danger of being wrong if you really truly believe that you're right?
Like if you're saying that if I examined my opinion, I see it's based
Mhm.
on valid values that I hold dear and I can defend it, and then
No, not quite. I'm talking about I have to be right. I'm not talking about an open-minded person examining things. I'm talking the dogmatic. This is right. This is wrong. I have to be right. What do you think the danger is of being wrong in those situations? And I don't
oh,
have necessarily an answer myself. I mean, I can talk about what I think about it, but I'm not looking for a specific answer. I'm not trying to defend a specific answer, I should say.
I have come across this lately in my life to where it's a scary thing, and I think it's kind of silly to call. I've felt in the past that it was silly to call someone courageous for living their values, but sometimes it really is because of fear. There is no courage without fear. And so when you're approaching a value like, um, well, no, my values didn't change. I think what was scary that was that my um, opinions changed. And so I think the fear was if I change my opinion, my values will change and I will have to
Mm.
give up a part of myself that I valued before. I'll lose something. Like, well, let's take the transgender thing. Um, if I hold a value about transgenderism, um, oh, I don't know what the value would be there. Opinions are basically all I've dealt with 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 transgenders. So transgender people. Um,
The value is, a godly creation. So this is me trying to understand the opposite side. I think
yeah,
the
yeah.
value is God made people a certain way, and if you go against what God made you as, then you are uh, you're in the face of God. You're throwing it in His face and trying to make other people believe something that is not true. And this is again not my opinion, but you're trying to make people believe something that is true that is clearly not. That's the value being
Okay, well
essentially,
that's a good synopsis. That applies to everything, not just transgenderism. It could be anything. It
yeah.
could, yeah, yeah, okay. So whether you're stocking shelves in a grocery store and the supervisor says, well, actually the labels go on the right side or whatever,
Mhm.
um, they're giving you an opinion. Am I going to have to change my values? Was I wrong? Hmm. I'm an
With transgenderism, and I'm getting into scary territory here, but I think to kind of answer my own question about this, right? Like, I think that the danger is if I'm willing to look at this a different way, then my belief in my relationship to God and who God is and what that means starts to crumble, maybe in some way, as opposed to being like, well, if God doesn't make mistakes, then this transgender person isn't a mistake. And that's an entirely different conversation. The
mm,
value is still there. God makes perfect things. God is perfect, doesn't make mistakes. If that's the case and you exist, that God made you, you're not a mistake. The value remains the same. The opinion about the value has changed the way you interact with it.
man, I would have to think that's a very deep question. So I think that's quite a bit of food for thought. What will happen if I change my opinions on something that I have hold strongly about?
Mhm.
I that fear of crumbling, that my value will crumble. Well, oh my gosh. So do I don't need to be honest? The my deep-seated beliefs about God and the nature of the universe, will that crumble apart as I challenge these opinions? And it may be, as I've come to think about my beliefs, that they don't crumble in as much as they change.
Yeah.
The old things are done away and all things have become new. If you can imagine how people felt in 2000 years ago when all types of new dogmas, all types of new beliefs were being proposed by some 30-year-old guy.
Yeah.
And
Or
he
even
would,
go to like, a couple hundred years after that, where you've got a guy named Muhammad who comes out of the desert and he's like, hey, by the way. check
I
this
have,
out.
I have all this new stuff, and
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So does that mean that the nature of God changed because these guys suggested new interactions with him? No, but it's a scary thing. It's still really scary. Still scary to approach these hard and fast rules that you've held your whole life. Um, and you don't research them so that you can defend your old belief. You research them to see if you were right.
Hmm.
What does honesty do for you? What does it do for society? What does it do for your kids and your wife? If they know that their husband and dad is an honest person, why would they care?
Yeah, these are like core foundational questions, and this is my bread and butter, dude. Like I love these kinds of questions. I truly believe, and here's a belief statement, I guess, but I truly
Mm-hmm.
believe that an examined life, an uncomfortably examined life, is a happier life than one that is on autopilot.
Oh man, it's so much work. It is so much work
Yeah.
to examine your beliefs, and the need to be right comes with safety and comfort. I can be right, especially when it comes to myself. I'm right. I'm honest. Why? I don't care. It's just I am. I just
Hmm.
am going to be honest. Why do you want to be an honest person? Because I do. Like you don't examine it, you don't approach it, you don't criticize it or anything. You just that's the way it is, and it's easy. It's so
Yeah.
much easier. So much easier.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a question from me to Mr. Barlow. Why do some people have the need to be right? My quick answer is because it's easier. It's just easier.
All that to say, it's just easier.
Yeah. Well, as Taylor said, if you want to live a better life, lead an examined life, an uncomfortably
Yeah.
examined life.
Which is, to be fair, a paraphrase of a much more intelligent person's quote about that.
Well, it's nice to you to deflect that. We went through a lot today. We're talking about mindfulness and
Yeah.
being present with things. I encourage you to be present with yourself, whoever
Yeah.
you
And if
are
you walk away
listening
from this
today.
thinking we totally dropped the ball, let us know. Tell us why
Uh,
our opinions are invalid.
emotionalmenpc@gmail.com.
Mhm. And I,
Emotionalmenpc.
I also, if you watch this on YouTube or Spotify, you can comment on the things. I reply to every single comment. I try to. And if there's any that I missed, my apologies. I
Yep.
definitely read them all and I think about them. So
Yes. We love comments.
yes, yes, we
Thank you to
do.
everybody who has put forth really thoughtful words about and joined the conversation. So we really
Yeah.
appreciate people joining the conversation.
Yeah. And if anybody like our good friend, Mr. Jeff Barlow, draw it in one. If you want to follow his Instagram at draw it in one, such cool art that he does. Anyway, if you have a question or you want us to talk about something, just let us know. We've so far gotten two great episodes. I think it's great discussions. Screw with their episodes. Two good discussions
Yeah.
out of questions people have sent, and we always love answering questions and turning them into great conversations. So feel free to reach out. We love to hear from you. We think you're just swell.
Right.
All five of you.
All five of you. Yeah. You all of you have a good day each day of the week
Yes.
for the next 5 days.
Yes. 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 And as always, Pete, this is like the best. Just talking to you is so much fun.
Thank you, Tyler. Man, I kind of find it uncomfortable sometimes because you bring up really hard questions that I now think as I'm talking and realize that I have a lot of work to do, as we all
So
do. But man, it's a beautiful
yeah.
moment to be here with
You
you.
do the same for me, just so we're clear. I'm not just like I'm right and Pete's wrong. My life is very different because of the things you make me think about, the questions that you ask, and I am very grateful for it.
So much. Love you, Taylor.
Love you too, man. Take care.